95% of people in this country will die broke, not poor, broke. And I want you to understand the difference before we go any further, because that distinction is doing a lot of quiet, expensive work in your life, whether you've recognized it yet or not. Poor is a circumstance. Broke is a decision. A pattern of decisions, to be more precise, made over years, defended with words like normal and comfortable, and that's just how it is. Decisions dressed up so convincingly in the clothing of ordinary life that most people never identify them as decisions at all. They identify them as gravity, as the way things are, as life. And here is the part that should bother you. Not that 95% of people end up financially broken. The data has been pointing that direction for decades, and the math is not subtle. What should bother you is the second half of what I said. They will defend every decision that got them there, right up until the end, with complete sincerity, with conviction. Because the story they told themselves about their debt, about their spending, about their lifestyle, that story became identity, and people will protect identity before they will protect retirement savings every single time. I have been doing this for 30 years. 30 years of sitting across from people, smart people, hardworking people, people who genuinely believe they are handling their finances, and watching them describe in precise and articulate detail the exact mechanism of their own financial ruin without ever once recognizing what they are describing. It is one of the most consistent things I have ever witnessed about human beings, and I find it not depressing, fascinating. The way something is fascinating when it is both utterly predictable and somehow still every single time faintly surprising. This is not a motivational video. I want to be clear about that from the beginning. This is an autopsy of the financial life, conducted while you still have time to change the outcome. The door is open. Whether you walk through it is, as always, entirely up to you. Let me tell you when this started. Not for you specifically, though if you sit with it long enough, I suspect you'll recognize the moment. I'm talking about the first time someone you trusted told you that debt was just part of life. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a guidance counselor. Maybe it was a very reasonable seeming financial aid officer who helped you sign paperwork at 18 years old. Whoever it was, they said it with complete authority. Everybody has a car payment. Mortgages are how you build equity. Credit cards are fine as long as you pay them off. And they said that last part the way adults say things they are not actually planning to do. You were young. You had no framework for disagreement. So you didn't disagree. You filed it under how the world works and moved on with your life. And then you grew up and you got the apartment and the car payment and the credit card and eventually the house with the 30-year mortgage. And somewhere along the way, you stopped thinking of these things as choices. They became gravity, just the way things are, just what adults do. Every month, the paycheck came in. Every month it went back out to the bank, to the auto lender, to the card company. And what remained, if anything remained, you called a budget. You may have even called it responsible, and nobody corrected you because everyone around you was running the exact same arrangement and calling it the exact same thing. Chiba, I knew a woman very financially literate, 2 professional certifications, subscribed to every major money newsletter you can name, who once walked me through her debt management system. Spread prid, color-coded, multiple tabs. She was $64,000 in unsecured debt at the time, and she was genuinely pleased with how organized everything looked. I told her the spreadsheet was impressive. I meant it. I just didn't specify what it impressed me about. Here is what the larger system, not her spreadsheet, the one society handed you. Here is what it actually taught you. It taught you that managing debt is the same thing as managing money. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. Those are not the same activity. Managing debt means you have already conceded the primary fight. You have accepted on some level that your income belongs to your creditors first and to you second, and that your job is to optimize within that arrangement. Managing money means your income belongs to you first, every dollar, and you decide where each one goes before it moves. The sequence matters. The sequence is everything. The paycheck-to-paycheck cycle is not primarily an income problem. I know that's not what you want to hear. In most cases, not all, but most, it is a thinking problem, a pattern problem. And I say that not to be cruel. Cruel would be watching you stay there and saying nothing. Let me give you the internal monologue, because I have heard it from enough people in enough accents from enough zip codes that I can recite it without prompting. It sounds exactly like this. Once I make a little more, I'll get on top of it. Once this one card is paid off, once the kids are in school, once the season settles down, once. You know what once is. Once is the sound the person makes when they have delegated their financial future to a version of themselves that does not yet exist under circumstances that will never be quite convenient enough. Here is what actually happens. The income goes up. The lifestyle follows it. The gap, the real gap, the distance between what comes in and what goes out stays identical. Because when you keep the mindset and upgrade the numbers, you don't change the outcome. You inflate it. If your financial decisions for the last 10 years were made by someone who was not planning to succeed, not planning to fail either, just operating without any real plan at all, what would those decisions look like? Look at the actual list. I'll wait. Destroy the label. The first word I want to take apart is normal. But, you've been using it as a defense mechanism, and I want to dismantle it carefully because it is doing more damage to your financial life than any single bad purchase you've ever made. Normal is not a standard. Normal is a description of what most people are doing. And most people are broke. So when you use normal as a justification, it's normal to have a car payment. It's normal to carry some credit card debt. It's normal to live a little. What you are actually saying is the majority of people around me would make this same mistake. Therefore, it is not a mistake. You have collapsed the distinction between common behavior and correct behavior, and that collapse is quietly costing you everything. Here are the actual numbers that the word normal is describing when you use it. The median American household carries roughly $10,000 in credit card debt. The average monthly car payment in this country now exceeds $700. More than half of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without going further into debt. That is what normal looks like when you put it in a spreadsheet instead of a sentence. That is the destination the word is pointing toward. The word you should be using is common. Common means it happens frequently. Normal means it should happen. Your debt is common. Your month to mow and financial anxiety is common. Neither of those facts makes the arrangement correct or safe or worth defending. Common and correct are not synonyms, and the people who actually build wealth, not the appearance of wealth, not the leased and financed version of it, are the people who understood that distinction and stopped using the first word when they meant the second one. Normal is not a plan. It is a eulogy. Prevail, the real Oregon, the financial behavior you are defending right now, the installment plan, the revolving credit card balance, the I'll deal with it properly next month strategy. This did not come from your laziness. It did not come from a character flaw. It came from a system specifically, deliberately, and profitably designed to produce exactly this outcome. The consumer credit industry makes money when you carry a balance, not when you pay it off, when you carry it. The auto industry's actual business model is not selling vehicles. It is selling monthly payments, and the car is the collateral that justifies the number. The mortgage industry knows, because the data has always told them, that most homeowners refinance within 7 years, which means most people are never actually paying off a mortgage. They are resetting one every decade while the bank collects 30-year interest from the beginning each time. These are not accidents. These are engineered business models built by people who understood human psychology and long-term financial behavior better than most consumers will ever bother to, and whose continued profitability depends entirely on you remaining in exactly the arrangement you are currently in. The system is not broken. It is performing exactly as designed. You are the product, not the customer. And the moment that distinction becomes real to you, truly real, not an abstract idea, every single transaction begins to look different. Every decision has a different weight. You did not fail the system. The system succeeded with you. The only question that matters now is whether you are willing to become the person it did not plan for. The bank does not lose sleep over your financial future. That job has always belonged to you. Turn the lens on the people who do judge it. I want to address the social dimension of this because it rarely gets named directly. There are people in your life, and you know exactly who they are, who would look at a person driving a paid-off 11-year-old car, skipping the group vacation, eating at home 5 nights a week, and living consistently below their means, and find that sad, extreme, excessive. They would wonder quietly, in the polite way people wonder about things they find threatening, whether that person was really okay. I once sat across from a man, very well compensated, articulate about almost everything, who described his spending philosophy as investing in the quality of his daily experience. He said it slowly, like it was something he had practiced. He had not made a retirement contribution in 2.5 years and had recently taken a home equity loan to fund what he called a lifestyle realignment. I found the language genuinely interesting. I wrote it down. I want you to think carefully about what that judgment reveals, not about the person being judged, about the person doing the judging. When someone is genuinely unsettled by your financial restraint, the question to ask is this: what does my discipline make visible that they would prefer remain invisible? Restraint does not threaten people who are secure in their own choices. It only threatens people who have constructed a story about why their financial decisions were inevitable, and your different choices are evidence right in front of them that those decisions were not inevitable at all. Here is what is happening when someone mocks your frugality. They are protecting their own narrative. Your discipline is not an accusation, but it functions like one because it makes something uncomfortably visible, that the alternative was available the entire time, and they chose something else. People need company in their financial decisions, not because they are weak, but because shared decisions feel collective, and collective decisions feel inevitable. When you stop participating in the shared arrangement, you expose it as a choice. And choices can be questioned. Gravity cannot. Be the person who breaks the collective. Not with a speech, just with your math, quietly compounding in the background while everyone else is talking about interest rates at dinner. The most threatening thing in some social circles is a zero balance. Name the concrete financial advantage. Let me stop being philosophical and give you a specific number. If you are currently sending $1,500 a month toward debt payments, a car, 2 credit cards, a personal loan, and you attack that debt aggressively, eliminated it in 2 to 3 years through genuine and sustained intensity, that $1,500 per month becomes yours. Not the banks, not the card companies, yours. Invested monthly into a growth mutual fund at the conservative historical average of 10 to 11% annual return, starting at 35 years old, you're looking at somewhere between $800,000 and $1.2 million by the time you reach 65. You did not need a higher salary for that outcome. You did not need a second job, a side hustle, a cryptocurrency position, day trading, or a weekend seminar from someone wearing a watch that costs more than your annual grocery budget. You needed to stop sending $1,500 a month to institutions that have never, in any of their projections, factored in your retirement. This is not optimistic math. This is compound interest applied to money that is currently leaving your household every month and building someone else's balance sheet instead of yours. The people who build genuine wealth, not the performance of wealth, not the financed version, are not smarter than you. They did not receive different information. They made one different decision about who gets paid first in the budget. They decided it was them. They built the entire plan around that decision and did not negotiate with their own comfort once the plan was written. That is available to you. Right now, it has always been available. The math does not discriminate by income bracket. It only cares about the sequence and the consistency. Wealth is not complicated. It is only uncomfortable in ways most people are unwilling to sustain. Distinguish MVUs from owned. I want to draw a line carefully because a lot of people hear what I'm describing and confuse it with financial fear, and those are not the same thing. Living from the wrong one will make you miserable without making you wealthy, and I don't want that outcome for you any more than the other one. Scarcity is reactive. It says no to everything, not from a plan, but from panic. It comes from debt pressure, from the relentless anxiety of a number that keeps growing, from not trusting yourself to make a decision and live with it. Scarcity is exhausting. It produces resentment of your own choices, of the people who seem to spend freely, of the financial decisions you made years ago that you can't yet see the exit from. That is not what I'm describing. That is not the posture. Intentionality is different. Intentionality is the budget written before the first dollar of the month moves. It is knowing exactly where every dollar is, assigned before it arrives, which means when you say yes to something, you mean it. It was planned. And when you say no, you mean that too. There is no grief in the no. There's just the plan, and the plan is yours, and you wrote it. The person running on scarcity looks like discipline from from the outside and feels like punishment from the inside. The person who has built genuine intentionality looks different. You can actually see it. They drive the paid-off car without apology. They decline the dinner without a 10-minute explanation. They fund the retirement account before the month begins and then decide what the rest looks like. They're not performing sacrifice. They are executing a decision they made a long time ago, and they can feel it working. There is no dignity in a payment plan that outlasts your patience. There is only math and one day, finally, deliberately, a plan. The language replicament. The first change is internal, and it starts with the specific words you use to describe your financial life to yourself inside your own head before anything is said out loud to anyone else. Stop saying, I can't afford it. Start saying, I'm not spending money on that. Those sentences are not interchangeable. I can't afford it positions you as a victim of circumstances, someone to whom the decision is happening. I'm not spending money on that makes you the decision maker. The first is a report. The second is a choice. And the difference between those two postures, repeated across thousands of decisions over a decade, is the difference between someone who is managed by their money and someone who manages it. Stop saying, someday I'll get on top of this. Start saying, by this specific month and year, here is exactly where I will be. Someday is not a financial plan. Someday is a placeholder, a linguistic way of deferring a decision you are not yet ready to make. Replace it with a date, a real date on paper with a real plan attached. If you cannot write the date down and describe the steps, you do not have a goal. You have a feeling. Feelings do not compound. Stop saying we're comfortable. Start asking, does comfortable mean safe right now? Because for most people in this country, at this specific moment in their financial lives, those words describe entirely different realities. Comfortable means the arrangement has not produced a visible crisis yet. Safe means the arrangement can absorb what is coming without destroying you. If a $4,000 emergency would put you on a payment plan, you are not safe. You are comfortable. And comfortable is one of the most expensive feelings available. The environment, our debt, look at the systems you move through every single day, the stores, the apps, the subscriptions, the social feeds, the financial institutions, and ask one question about each of them. Was this built to move money from my account to someone else's? Because the answer in most cases is yes. The retail floor was designed by people who understand behavioral economics better than most clinical psychologists. And every element, the lighting, the product placement at eye level, has been tested to maximize what leaves your wallet. The app with your payment information stored has removed friction from the transaction until what was once a considered purchase has become a single gesture on a screen. The subscription you forgot you have, and I am comfortable betting there is at least one, is billing you monthly for something you stopped using but never got around to canceling. These are not accidents. These are deliberate systems producing predictable behavior in people who aren't paying close enough attention. The audit is not about eliminating every convenience. It is about understanding which systems you are participating in consciously and which ones are simply operating as designed while you weren't looking. Cancel the forgotten subscription today. Remove the one-tap payment storage from the app that triggers impulse purchases. Unsubscribe from the marketing emails that reliably produce purchases you did not plan. None of this is dramatic. All of it is money returning to your control. The Respins Protocol. The next time someone questions your financial choices, why you didn't take the trip, why you still drive that car, why you didn't come to dinner, you need exactly 2 sentences. Here they are. I'm working a plan, full stop. And if they continue, I appreciate that you see it differently. That is the complete script. No explanation, no spreadsheet presentation, no defensiveness, no apology. The people who genuinely need to understand will eventually understand when the math becomes undeniable. The people who don't need to understand are not line items in your retirement account. Their opinion about your vehicle is not a financial variable. 2 sentence. Mean them, move on. The ownership statement underneath every shift I have described. The language, the environment audit, the response protocol. There is a posture, a fundamental orientation toward your own financial life that either makes all of it sustainable or makes all of it collapse the first time someone looks at you sideways. The posture is this: you are not refusing to be normal because someone told you to, not because of a book, a video, a podcast, a conversation that sounded compelling in the moment. You are doing this because you looked at the arrangement the world offered, the debt, the payment plans, the financed lifestyle called comfortable, and you made a clear decision without apology that you want something different. That decision is not deprivation. It is not extreme. It is the most basic available expression of financial self-respect. You do not owe anyone an explanation for deciding that your retirement matters more than their comfort with your choices. You do not owe anyone an apology for the paid-off car, the cooked meal, the full emergency fund, the investment account that started 12 months before anyone said you were ready. You owe those people nothing on this particular subject. Decide, plan, execute, and stop narrating it to people who will not be sitting next to you when the math finally produces something worth having. I want to say something true, and I want you to receive it past whatever defensiveness may already be forming. The financial system in this country was not built for the person who wants to get out. It was built for the person who stays, who keeps borrowing, who keeps refinancing, who keeps calling the arrangement comfortable and normal and fine. That is the customer the system is profitable with. That is the behavior the system was designed to produce and maintain. And the culture that surrounds that system, the car commercials, the sick social media, the dinner table conversations, the quiet pressure of every lifestyle purchase your neighbors have made and left visible, that culture was not constructed to produce wealth. It was constructed to produce consumption. And consumption at this scale requires that most people never ask the question that's sitting underneath all of it. You're asking it. That's why you're here. And that makes you something the system did not plan for. I've sat across from people who had every structural disadvantage available to a person, wrong zip code, wrong starting point, genuine hardship early in life. And I have watched some of them become the first person in their family's history to retire with dignity and security. Not because their circumstances changed, not because they received an inheritance or caught a break or found the perfect investment at the perfect time, because they changed how they thought about money, changed what they did with it, and then refused to stop. I've also sat across from people with every conceivable advantage, high income, advanced education, no real history of hardship, no legitimate external obstacle, who will still die with a payment left on something. Because the thinking never changed, because comfortable was close enough to fine, and fine was close enough to good, and nobody made them sit with the actual numbers until the numbers had already made the decision for them. You are not your debt, but you are your decisions. Every single one of them. And those decisions begin with what you believe is true about money, about what you are owed, about what is possible, about what you are actually capable of building when you stop waiting for conditions to be exactly right and begin regardless. There is no better time. There is only this month's budget, written before this month begins, executed without apology, defended by nothing except the results. Then 95% will keep defending the decisions that got them there. You don't have to.